Very good afternoon, good morning to everyone who's joined our session today. Thank you for giving us your time. I now invite Ms. Kaushalyani to do the welcome note and invite the session speaker for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Disha. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, distinguished dignitaries, and the valued audience. It is with immense pleasure and a warm heart that I extend a hearty welcome to all of you to the third session of the Faculty Development Program organized by the Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka in collaboration with the Emerald Publishing. Your presence today is a testament to the commitment and dedication we all share towards the pursuit of academic excellence and professional growth. First and foremost, I extend my warm welcome to Professor Atula Nyanapala, Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka. Next, I bid a warm welcome to our esteemed resource person of today's session, Professor Mohammad Kashif, Associate Dean, GIFT Business School, GIFT University, Pakistan. With gratitude, let me welcome Professor M.S.A. Muslim, Chairman of the Research and Publication Unit, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka. With great respect, let me also welcome Professor N. Jayantha Devasiri, the Chairperson of the Faculty Development Program, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka. With gratitude, I would like to warmly welcome Ms. Sangeeta Menon, Chairperson of the Faculty Development Program, Emerald Publishing, and Ms. Disha Laknapal, the Chief Organizer of the Faculty Development Program, Emerald Publishing. Further, let me welcome Ms. Shanika Ratnasiri, Secretary of the Faculty Development Program, and Ms. Dimuthu Vijayaratna, Assistant Secretary of the Faculty Development Program. In addition, I would also like to extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished participants from Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka and Emerald Publishing. Your presence here reflects your commitment to the pursuit, knowledge, and continuous learning. In addition to our distinguished guests, we are equally delighted to have our valued participants, mainly academics and researchers coming together from various corners of the world to share insights, exchange ideas, and collectively contribute to the advancement of the fields. Once again, a warm welcome to all of you. Let's embark on this journey of knowledge and exploration together, fostering collaborations that ripple across borders and disciplines, contributing to a brighter future for academia and beyond. So thank you. So before proceeding to today's session themed, how to conduct an outstanding review, let me introduce our esteemed resource person of the session 3 of the Faculty Development Program, Professor Mohammad Kashif, to the valued audience. Professor Mohammad Kashif is currently working with GIFT University, Pakistan as the Associate Dean, GIFT Business School. He holds 17.5 years of full-time teaching experience within Pakistan and as a visiting professor in several countries abroad. Professor Kashif has supervised several applied research projects for national and multinational companies and has also published 68 manuscripts as per June 2023 in international journals and textbooks. Additionally, he worked as the guest editor for highly reputed journals such as British Food Journal and Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration. In the editorial role, currently he is serving as the editor-in-chief, South Asian Journal of Marketing. In addition to teaching and research, he is working with Emerald Publishing as the brand ambassador and has offered more than 60 online and on-site training programs in countries such as Tunisia, Malaysia, Philippines, India, Turkey, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Morocco. Currently, he is supervising academic and applied research projects from an interdisciplinary perspective. So I warmly invite Professor Mohammad Kashif to take over the session. Dear sir, over to you now.
Thank you, Ms. Kaushalyani. Thank you very much for a very nice introduction. Thank you very much. And before I start the proceedings, I think I should thank to all those who belong to the Sabaragama University and also the team Emerald for always like looking forward, helping each other, and guiding researchers and working for the capacity building. So it is truly a great spirit, and I congratulate to all the management staff and all the administrative staff and all the faculty, everyone who is engaged. And also from a warm welcome to all the participants from all across the world. Um, I hope that today's session will help us to understand correctly as why we review for journals and also how to conduct an outstanding review. You see, when we are employed by a university, generally speaking, we don't think of reviewing something. It is a later stage of your career. Generally speaking, when people finish up their PhDs and when they start publishing for journals, even then they are not thinking much about the review process. But believe me, this is something very important, and this is something we all should do right from the beginning of our academic careers. And I would like to share my thoughts that everyone who is engaged in some sort of higher education, teaching, either visiting or permanent faculty, they should engage in some sort of reviewing for journals, and to start with maybe from journals which are not very high class per se, but they are recognized journals like published by publishers such as Emerald Publishing, because there are several benefits. And today, in today's session, I'll be sharing all those ideas, not only that how to review, but also why to review. What are the academic benefits and what are the social benefits that people can have. And I think that I'll hold somewhere around 30, 35 or 40 odd minutes presentation, and then the whole it will be open for the participants who are on air, for them to participate, for them to comment, for them to ask questions. So all of you are welcome to participate once I'm done with my presentation. Well, moving forward, as all of you know, the title of this presentation and the webinar is How to Conduct an Outstanding Review. And when we sketch the academic life, when I think about being an academic, the phenomena of higher education, it is related to so many aspects. Like it relates with researching, that if you are in or recruited by a university which has some sort of research culture, they will ask you to conduct applied research or to conduct academic research and to write for the journals and to write some book chapters, also go to conferences, arrange conferences. So this is what your academic life is about, that your job is not only to conduct research but also to get it done. You have to write something. Sometimes you have to write some administrative, under your administrative roles, you have to write some policy statements as well. You are required to publish also, teaching, administrative role, and also somehow like advocating the university as a faculty or as a management staff, acting like a resource fund, yeah, resource person, like fundraising. It is not only in business schools but also in universities. Their sustainability depending upon the financial sustainability. And also your job is to be an inspiration and to be an academic leader. Even if you are a lecturer, you still can be an inspirational leader for your students, and I wish all of you to be. So I connect this reviewing with publishing. Once you start publishing, as I said earlier, you have to review. So it becomes part of your job. And even before you publish, I would strongly recommend the day you join higher education as a lecturer or as a junior lecturer, you should perform several tasks. Based on my experience, I would like to suggest to you that you should start teaching at undergraduate levels, not only teaching but also supervising, maybe co-supervising with your senior colleagues. Go and sit with them, talk to them, listen to them carefully, observe them. How do they do? How do they teach? How do they supervise? How do they do fundraising? So it is like a mentor-mentee relationship within a university environment. Not an ideal thing, I am telling you. So just the way I am telling you could be an ideal thing, but it requires some sort of effort, and that is why we sit together again and again under this faculty development program, sometimes talking about the publishing, sometimes talking about teaching, sometimes talking about your your referencing, your plagiarism issues, your journal evaluation issues, and today about reviewing. It is not a very popular topic per se, but I will try to advise all the peers and the junior fellows and the students who are in this webinar today, just to focus on what I'm trying to say is that your job is not only to teach and deliver lectures. Instead, it is more than that. So reviewing process is tightly knitted with the publication process also. And you see, this world is now asking a lot of questions that when you publish research, what type of change you can bring about. So one of the changes that you can bring about is also, helping people somehow. A lot of students who are working for their PhD thesis and for their MPhil thesis, or those who are in the process of attaining some sort of postgraduate qualification like MBA or MA in research or MSc in social research or something like that. So it is useful for everyone. And research, its writing, its conduct, its publishing, its mannerism is useful for all those people who are somehow connected with the higher education as a sector, as an industry. So reviewing is tightly connected with the publication somehow. And please don't run after the publication per se. If I let's say, if I had 70 odd publication, it took me 15 good years to get it done. 15 years. So now on average, it is like 4 or 5 per year. But today the world is different. I think instead of just publishing, we think our job is much more challenging. And when I say our job, it is including my job also. Although we have now in the mature age market segment in the higher education, those who are younger ones, their job is not only to publish but also to look into the utility of a research, who will use the research, how it can benefit, especially just look after the sustainable development goals. So I hope this way we can nicely connect ourselves in the higher education sector. Now, why to review for journals? This is yet another very important question that usually people ask, that why to review. So there are several benefits as why to review for journals. For example, one of the benefits is to review for the journal is to establish a relationship with the journal editorial team. You see, this is something which happened to me also. I started reviewing, but you see, let me go back to just 17 or 18 years when I started teaching. I started teaching only. I was working with a commercial organization. They were dealing in surgical equipment here in Sialkot in Pakistan. I started work with them. Then I went to a global bank as part of their sales team. Later on, I joined academia because someone advised me to join academia, and like in 2003 and 4, the higher education market was just evolving with the passage of time. There were not a huge number of universities in Pakistan. So this is where I started. So I from my sales career or from my production career, I jumped into higher education, started teaching courses, started reading books, started reading literature, started talking to people in the industry, and I got to know, and I had this feel that okay, this publishing is also something I should do. So I started publishing. I started writing article. I was trained by a very good faculty when I was in my MPhil at a university in Islamabad. So I started, spending time with the people who are publishing. Maybe sometimes with the newspaper, some conference papers, some short stories in the books, and also some manuscripts also in local language. So I started sitting with them, and I became part of them. But that was not what was required at an international level. Okay, so somehow I started reading about it, and from self-study and some observations, I came to know that publishing is an important thing. So first job I performed was teaching. Then I started publishing. Later on, I realized that I do not know people in academia, especially those who are journal editors, and they have a community. When we talk about our research methods course, we talk about scientific community. So as I progressed in my academic life, I got to know that this is one of my weaknesses. I don't know the people who are in the academia, especially those who are part of our scientific community. That made me curious as a young lecturer, like 18 years ago. That made me curious to know what is this process, how people evaluate articles, and who evaluate, what is the criteria, and why do they do that. So I came to this point that okay, this is something very important and a volunteer job that I need to perform. So one of the very good benefits that I attained is a relationship with the journal editorial team, and that later on the day took me by grace of Allah as an editor for guest editor for a top class journal like British Food Journal. It was way back like 6, 7 years ago. I started reviewing her British Food Journal. Then I drafted some emails to the editor that look, this is my review. Look, I have some credibility and you can trust me. And I wanted to invite a call for papers. So it was around 2016 when I started reviewing, and 2017 when I invited the first call for papers for a British Food Journal. And then yet another journal, same process I followed for Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration, started reviewing for them, started writing for them, and also somehow got connected with the editor and requested them and sent them my proposals. And of course, Emerald has a very good process to review the proposals for guest editorship. They have a structured format, and sometime in future, if we will talk about it, I can definitely elaborate on it. So one of the benefits that you get is to have a stronger relationship and ties with the journal editorial team. Then another thing is that we learn about the new developments in the field. That is very, very important. That what is happening in the field. If business administration is my field, or management, or sociology, or psychology, or education, or let's say criminology, any field. So when I started reviewing for journals, of course, fresh thinking is submitted to journals. So with the passage of time, I will get to know that what is there. I need to learn, and this is how we learn while reviewing, that the new development in the field. But something is very important here: ethical guidelines. When we submit articles to the journals, we trust the editors and we trust the reviewers, and vice versa. The editors and the reviewers, they trust on us, but there are some criteria that we need to follow. For the reviewers, I think as a reviewer, this is my responsibility to not to public an idea. If it is for review, it should be for my eyes only. So I think this ethical consideration should also be there. Then another benefit is that why to review for journals is something internally satisfying, a soothing effect, that you can volunteer and you are helping others. You are not only just on a sole ride, instead you are helping others to run with you, and maybe sometimes they left you behind and they will win. So no problem, they should win. But your win is helping others and volunteering yourself for others. So volunteering and helping peers, this is a great effect, and this will help you with the first point also. You will be in the form, you will be, when you're reviewing for people, it's not only reviewing for journals only, it is reviewing for people also. For example, if someone has drafted a research paper and he or she is my friend, and he gave me or she gave me a paper to read, I should ethically and honestly review it. And I should give it back to the person that okay, these are my comments, these are my suggestions, and you can improve with the passage of time. So I think this will create a great impact within inside. A flower of help and a flower of volunteerism will evolve with you. It will become a paddy to a tree, and then others will be sitting under its shadow, and then becoming a part of a recognized global community of scholars. Once you review for journals, you get closer to the editors. They get to know you, you get to know them. You're part of a global community. You go to conferences, webinars, seminars, discussion forums, and this is how a community of friends and scholars evolve. So we get to know each other. I think it's a great source to socialize. And yet another thing is that the story never ends with the review process only. You can become a guest editor also. This is although one of the material benefits, but one of the very good benefits that you can have as an academic. And at the same time, you can become part of the editorial review board that will help you for your promotions and for your credibility as an academic. Not only editorial review board, but also editorial advisory board. So somehow these are the few benefits which you can attain out of reviewing for journals. And I hope my slides are also moving, Disha. Can you see the slides moving? Miss Disha or anyone from Emerald, can you see my slides moving?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes,
sir.
yes, we can see.
Okay. Okay, that's it. That's it. Now the criteria to evaluate articles. There must be some criteria that once an article is submitted to me, you see, one of the criteria above all is the ethical consideration, that I should not make the idea public. It is for my eyes and it should remain for can be shared with your student community that, okay, for example, aggression at workplace is important thing, or let's say brand globalness is important, or artificial intelligence and its use in service that is becoming popular, usage of app, usage of social media, inflationary pressures and research, that can be said, but not exact idea of the paper. So one of the criteria that you should follow as a reviewer is the ethical guidelines and ethical considerations. So this is one thing. Secondly, the criteria to review articles and to evaluate articles is there are a number of considerations. For example, number one is the idea, and I will elaborate further what do I mean by the idea and its power of an idea, how an idea becomes a powerful idea. Then the title, abstract and keywords, and I'll discuss about it. Introduction, the criteria, literature review, the criteria, method, result, discussion, and limitation and future side directions, the criteria. So I'll discuss all these one by one in the sort of my presentation today. Now the idea. Now people usually ask when I say that, okay, how an idea should be and how to evaluate an idea. If not at all, if not every criteria, at least something should be there. For example, is the idea current? Like I shared an example that AI and aggression at work. No, if I ask this question, can AI be helpful in countering the aggression at work and aggression in the society? Can robots help me? So I'll say, oh wow, what an idea. This is something unbelievable. Another idea could be, for example, the wastage is a great issue. It's a great social issue. So either I'm into any type of science, either I'm into health sciences, wastage an issue. I'm into social sciences, wastage an issue. So it is an issue of so many sciences. So what type of idea I am coming up with? The idea coincide with the journal scope, very, very important thing. If I'm writing for International Journal of Bank Marketing and I collected data, let's say from food journal or from a food audience or from hockey players, so I'm sorry, International Journal of Bank Marketing is not the right outlet to publish. So journals, their scope, that also be considered. And is it like, because you are an evaluator, you need to look into it. Does the idea coincide with the scope of the journal? Another idea is the idea is linked somewhat with global development goals, which I refer to the sustainable development goals, like I discussed about wastage, hunger, poverty, aggression, well-being, water contamination, and things like that, pollution, etc. And also, you see this global warming. So all these issues are our issues as a researcher. Now, is it like idea somehow linked with the sustainable development goals? This could be yet another criteria to evaluate the strength of the idea. Another very good point, and that you need to rethink and recheck. The fourth point, does it unite the postmodern spirit of methods interdisciplinary? Sometimes the journals are not postmodern in their very nature. Their scope is too specific. So that's all right. If you are reviewing for journal which is more specific, just look into the scope of the journal, try to match the article. Do they coincide? If yes, then go ahead. If the journal is interdisciplinary in nature, then obviously the postmodern spirit of methods should be there. And finally, is it important for the sample from where the data is collected? For example, I collected data from Switzerland, Zurich, and I'm talking about poverty. So generally speaking, when you talk about some countries and some nationalities, you do not consider the issues, hunger related to New York. So your perception would be very different. For example, when you think of New York as a human, you don't think of hunger, you don't think of poverty, you don't think of some other issues. So generally speaking, from where the sample was collected is the issue and the nature of the sample or the context of the sample, is it somehow related to each other? So these are just some of the implicit guidelines or implicit criteria to evaluate an idea, considering these 3-4 questions. Moving forward, the introduction section. Now, as a reviewer, what you need to see, you see there are several parts, and I think I forgot a slide which I need to discuss about the title, abstract, and keywords. Title should be clear and there is no set criteria other than the word count. You can have spicy novels title and you can have straightforward title. For example, the impact of A and B on the C and D. This can also be title. And also finding greener grass on the other side of the hill. Okay, it takes three to make a quarrel. So somehow you can twist the title also, and you can give it a straightforward title. Abstract is very important. When you see emerald journals, they follow a structured abstract, which means they'll ask authors to talk about the purpose of the study. Then they'll also ask them to highlight the method of the study. We'll ask them to highlight the findings of the study, likewise the managerial implication of the study and originality of the study. So from by reading the abstract, is it like error free? Is it like to the point and focused? Is the word count considered? So these are the a few guidelines which is for you. And when I talk about the scope of the journal, the keywords are very, very important. The keywords. For example, if it's a sports journal like International Journal of Sponsorship Marketing, so somehow the keywords related to sponsorship, fundraising, sports should be there. If it is a food journal, something related to food in your keyword should be there. So once you're evaluating articles, just also evaluate in an implicit manner how intelligent the author is, how correctly he or she has actually sketched and structured the article. Then moving forward with the introduction section, you see introduction is your sales pitch. Introduction is just like a sales pitch. That's what you have to offer. What is the problem you are trying to identify? Why your research is important? So there are several considerations and there are several questions that I think we need to ask from the authors, not directly from the authors, via their articles. Is there novelty? For example, something new. Novelty could be something new, and something new is also a topic of debate. That what do we mean by originality and novelty? By novelty, I means that something new could be context, could be something new, or method could be something new, or theory could be something new, or some dialogue could be something new, or some audience could be something new, or a city could be something new. So whatever the case you are trying to build as an author, reviewer will look into it as, is there novelty in this topic or issue? For example, the issue of let's say aggression or depression or stress and anxiety is a global issue. So when you are writing for journals, by default, this issue is very important. These days also, artificial intelligence as an issue is very important. Also, like usage of social media is something very important. Whichever field you are into, either sociology or psychology, this issue is very important by default. So you need to look into those global type of issues, bringing them closer to the issue of your context and the research methods worthy of publication. So I am rereading the statement. Is there novelty in this topic? And research, which means the methods worthy of publication. The first question is again an implicit, although Emerald has a criteria, very straightforward criteria, and you have to grade it. But I'm not talking about the Emerald criteria only. It's generally, how do I review an article or a manuscript or a scientific writing? So this is the criteria to evaluate some sort of scientific writing. This could be a thesis, this could be anything related to science. Another question that I need to ask from the reviewers, from the authors in their article is, what are the gaps? Are the gaps really important? The theoretical gaps as well as the contextual gaps, and are they really scantily addressed? Really? And what type of evidence is given to justify those gaps? Gap is not that A said that X has not been said. Gap is that what is bad is happening. Let's say if a research in a particular context is not conducted, then what bad is happening? For example, a lot of garbage is there in countries such as we are living in. Now, if I say that no one conducted a research on garbage, that is not a gap. To me, gap is that why we need to process garbage. What good can happen if we are able to process the garbage? How it can contribute to sustainability, which has not been happening because we are not focusing on processing the garbage and converting into some useful material. So the gaps under the introduction section, I need to ask that what is the level of conceptualization over there? And obviously the social and managerial relevance, that is very important, because I'm talking about the wastage a lot, and I'm talking also about the, for example, I'm talking about the sustainable consumption behavior. This is my area of research these days. And if I say that what is its social implication, the social implication could be that, okay, if there are like mountains of garbage, and if I am able to process the garbage, I can convert this garbage into a feasible living environment. So this could be one of the social implication. Managerial implication could be it has some implication for packaging of products. So this is how I need to justify as an author, and you need to evaluate, is the author really capable of coming up, making a case that why this research is important, the gap, which either could be social or it could be the managerial gap. So once we are evaluating the introduction section, generally speaking, we need to discuss or we need to elaborate and emphasize and focus on these three broader questions. And again, I would say the criteria will be there for the introduction, relationship to the literature, methods. Those who review for Emerald, they know that there is already a criteria established. But I'm talking about some more holistic and implicit approach about reading and trying to conceptualize the review of an article or a manuscript as how to come up with some solid arguments, because you have to suggest them back. You have to give them some private comments either to the or to the, for example, you have to give some comments to the editors, as well as sometimes you have to give comments to the authors, and these could be very private comments. So how would you give them comments if you are not thinking on these lines? So your comments could be from the topic itself, the newness or novelty of the gaps, or it could be contextualization, or it could be utility or the usefulness. So once we say introduction, these 3, 4, 5 things should be there in your mind, and you are evaluating separately, yes, but at the same time, it is not like grading. For example, how comprehensive was a literature review? This was a question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a Likert scale. But that is not I am talking about. I am talking about that how to give a comprehensive review of an article beyond grading. So these are the three criterions that we need to follow. Introduction section. This is just an example. If I will need, I'll discuss it. I'll move forward. Literature review. This could be yet another thing. And what are the questions that I need to ask? For example, the first question I need to ask, do the authors know the field where they intend to contribute, and the popular authors and the popular debates within the existing framework? If I'm trying to propose a framework, do I know who initiated this work, why this work was initiated? Do I know the background? And it is just like all my Indian and Pakistani audience, it is like ilm dosti. It is like having a friend with the knowledge or with the literature that has been published with it. The more you read, the better you are able to understand the historical developments. Don't make your articles boring by writing too much literature into it. But the point is, I need to give some hints to the reviewers, and reviewer need to see and have a holistic viewpoint. Does the author know the field where they intend to contribute? Do they really know the historical development? So this is one of the, you can say, a small paragraph which you can call theoretical framework, conceptual framework, conceptualization of the study, hypothesis development, something like that under the literature review section. So that really connects the dot. Another question, is it like authors have critically reviewed existing theory? Have they really highlighted? First question could be, are they, if it is quantitative research particularly, because the trend is there to conduct more quantitative research than qualitative, and in question answer session I can elaborate it further that why it is happening, what are the consequences to the development of knowledge and development of theory, that people are too much into quantitative. Okay, and there is no harm in doing quantitative research, neither I am overly advocating qualitative. But because we were talking about utility, context, we are talking about the originality. Now these questions somehow ask us to emphasize the qualitative research as well, alongside the survey dominated quantitative research. If you are doing experiments, perfectly fine. In the modern world, you can do that. But you see, in countries where we don't have the facilities, the lab facilities or the behavioral labs or something like that, where we can't conduct an experiment or a series of experiments, what to do? The survey approach, I'm sorry, it is not becoming very popular in the journals today. And don't trust me, just look into the journals, how they are doing. Wave 1, study 1, wave 2, study 2, wave 3, study 3. There are a number of studies reported in one research article. So you see, the world is changing and we need to have a critical eye on it, that what is happening. So if it is a quantitative research, coming back to this second point, if it is a quantitative research, I need to look as a reviewer, what is a theory, or the combination of theories, or why a combination of theory? Why not one theory can explain the whole relationship? These could be the implicit questions you need to ask. Then, is it like the authors know the conditions under which this theory is true? And if the conditions of theory 1 match with the conditions of theory 2, then it is perfectly fine. If the conditions of theory 1 does not match with the condition of theory 2, then what is the logic of combining both theories to study the same framework? That I need to ask as an author, and as an evaluator, you need to have a critical eye on it. Why 2 theories or why 3 theories? And do the authors know the assumptions of the theory? Are assumptions correct? And are the assumptions related to each other? If yes, then this is perfectly fine. And then finally, another question. Logical and comprehensiveness is a framework. No, I don't have a definition for being logical or being a comprehensive, because when we say something, it is easier to say because English is not our first language, based on my experience of writing and editing for journals. Because English is not our first language, so when we say something, we can say easily. But when it comes to writing, it is troublesome. Most of the times, it is troublesome. You see, somehow you might agree, or you can have the luxury to disagree as well. When we ask our students, okay, to explain the idea, they are very good at explanation. Sir, this is something I wanted to say. They are good at explanations. But when it comes to writing, they are writing something else. So most of the times we have to, send them back to revise the manuscript, to revise the draft, to revise the proposal, to revise this chapter, to revise. Why? Because English is not our first language. We are not groomed to establish academic arguments. So the comprehensiveness and the logic of framework should evolve from the point number 2, theory, its understanding. The better you understand a theory, highly likely that your framework will be more comprehensive. Okay, now let me talk about a framework here. For example, one of my articles, which is about, and I was talking about the spicy title, Love is Not Blind. Usually we say love is blind, but I said somehow love is not blind, just to attract the audience. Investigating a love-hate transition among fashion brand consumers. It was published in Emerald, Journal of Fashion Marketing and Management. Now the framework says that there are 2 types of self, and it leads to brand love. But the theory says that brand love is a short-term emotion. Brand love can lead to brand hate. But why? We don't know the answer. Why love leads to hate? Why sometimes you love a product and at the same time, after some time, you hate a product, a brand? Why? The explanation came from the brand jealousy. So this is how I created a logical argument that bringing it from the family studies, this brand jealousy as a construct, it was not initially a management science or a marketing or a branding study. It was about a family study that people say, when there is a third one between the two, the jealousy starts. Very logical, simple as daily life is. So the same way, the integration or the initiation between love and hate is mediated by jealousy, because when a person consumes a brand and second one consumes the same brand, this brand oriented jealousy can derive an emotion from triggering it from love to the hate, and then leading to negative spread of negative word of mouth. So generally speaking, you have to put some logic and some explanation that why you are proposing a mediator, why you are proposing a moderator, why you are using social identity theory. So this is from an author's perspective and from a reviewer's perspective. Does it make sense to you? And going back to it, how it will make sense to you? The point number 2, the theory and its explanations, the theory and its conditions, are those met? If it is, then move forward up to the method section. And when I say research methods, you need to elaborate on everything. What was your, like, you need to see that are the methods clearly written? Clearly means specific, to the point, and explained with sufficient details. For example, I say I collected data from bankers. Now, one sentence, why data was collected from bankers? Why bankers from a particular country? Why bankers from a particular gender? Why bankers during the work they were doing in the on the job in the bank? So I need to give explanations of everything, and one sentence I think would be enough, and you can then move forward with the argument. So this is one thing that I need to check into the article, that or the thesis. Are the methods clearly written? Another question that I need to ask is about the measurement of construct, and this is very sensitive here. What people do with the measurements, sometimes they adopt, and sometimes they adapt, and sometimes they develop new measures. Trust me, adopt, adapt, and development of new measures, these three are different sciences. So has attention been paid to the measurement of construct? Adapt procedures are different, adopt procedures are different, and development procedures are different. So authors, are they too much cautious into tiny things which we think as tiny things, but we call it science? So has attention really been paid to the measurement of the construct, and how the social biases were managed by authors? For example, one side, the social bias could be that I went to a bank, and the author is writing that I went to a bank and I handed over the questionnaire to 5 people. And 5 of them, of course, they are colleagues and they are working with each other since long. So they are friends. So they'll say, okay, my friend Faraz, tell me what is your choice of question number 7? And Faraz is asking from maybe Asma. Okay, Asma, tell me what is your answer of question number 11? So was I really careful when collecting the data and handing over the questionnaire to the respondents? How I selected them? How social biases were managed? Did I like request them to not to discuss among each other? What I did, what I did for the development of science. These are related to my social biases. Moving forward, the scientific reasons should be there. For example, I say, okay, I have 18 years of experience, I have 68 manuscripts published, so that is why I think snowball sampling should be used. This is not a scientific reason. A scientific reason should be that there are busy people, they are busy professionals, and I don't know much about them. I didn't know much, I know only one person. So with reference of one person, I snowballed to the other person also. I went to Ali. Ali told me about Hamza. Hamza told me about this. He told me about Devasiri. Devasiri told me about Madhuri. Madhuri told me about Disha. Disha told me about someone else. So some logic and scientific reasoning should be there, rather than merely talking about my grace and my education and my experience. When we say science, let it be. Let us advocate and promote science rather than to glamorize. I am just nothing when I am conducting research, collecting data. I am just nothing. I'm not a dean, I'm not a rector, I'm not a professor. I'm just a researcher who doesn't have an ego, but yes, has some sense approaching people, how to approach them. What are the sociology of approaching people? What is my manner of approaching them? What, are there like some ethics approval involved into it also? Was I like drafting emails, asking them some permission? Sir, can I really meet you, sir? Excuse me, sir. I'm coming to you tomorrow. Do you remember, sir? Thank you. So these phone calls, again, some sort of engagement with them before approaching them, dressing properly, showing not a very serious or a dry face, but at least telling them that you are serious about your research. Don't tell them, sir, this is just a research. It will take 5 minutes. But there are 80 questions. Come on. There are 80 questions. And I'm telling some this is just a tiny research, so just an MBA or MPhil thesis or PhD thesis, sir. I just wanted to get rid of, sir. Please just fill it up in 5 minutes. Trust me, he will not take even 5 minutes. He will not bother you. Why? Because my mannerism to approach people is not correct. So if there is my mannerism, my research mannerism is there, my attitude to collect data, approaching people, approaching at the right time. So I think this is how this should be reported somehow. This is part of the ethics and my mannerism. And now if you notice research articles, you will find ethics approval. You will find ethics statement over there. And then there are some journals who demand that did you really collect data after ethics approval? And I would like to appreciate here because I graduated from University of Colombo. I think they have a very good ethics review board and ethics review committee. I'm not saying to please anyone, but I'm really true admirer because after the developed countries, I noticed it in Sri Lanka, I noticed it in Malaysia also, in Singapore also. But I guess Sri Lankan universities I have never been to India so far. I'm sure they're also doing it. But because I have experience of Sri Lanka as a student over there with University of Colombo, they have a very good ethics, they have very strong ethics review board. And there are people who are from multiple sciences. There are people from health sciences, from law, from business and management, and from international relations, and etc. So this ethics approval documentation should be there somehow. As a reviewer, you need to have a check on it. And as a reviewer, it is your right. If you doubt somewhere, if you doubt on the results, you can just write to the editor or write directly to the authors that in the revisions you would like to see the Excel sheet, you would like to see the data, you would like to see the transcripts. It is your right to demand, and you know the reasons why I am saying it. So somehow there are some research methods, and these are the four implicit criteria that you need to follow while writing your report. It is not again grading. Grading is different. This reporting is different because these are the comments, these are the points on the basis of which you will share some comments to the authors and the editorial team. Moving forward the discussion. Now you need to ask what is new that you know after reading the article. Is there something new? The researcher found something new. Generally speaking, we are too much into our hypothesis support. Sorry to say, we are too much into it. We have made science just the way we want it to be. We want all our hypotheses to be supported by the data. And sorry to say about all the review boards and all the academic boards, they wanted to see like that. Okay, hypothesis 1 proposed, accepted. Hypothesis 2 accepted. Hypothesis 3 accepted. Sorry to say, this is something challenging times for the development of science. So somehow we are playing with the sample in order to support the hypothesis. Don't do that. It's just a humble suggestion and a humble request. In a quantitative research, your fikr or your thought or your tension or your stress should not be the support of hypothesis. It should be the originality of the science, originality of the results, originality of the discussion, originality of the data, ethics, honesty. These should be the criteria if we wanted to protect the field of research. Otherwise, you know the criticism, what people are talking about. Now people have started talking about on various forums I have been to, and I think a lot of people, there are more than closer to 100 people there are, and all of you are traveling and all of you are attending conferences. You know better than me. People are not talking very favorably or favorably even about the publications and things like that. Why? Because there are so many practices that needs actual improvement. So when we say the hypothesis in a quantitative study, the fikr or the stress or the anxiety or the consciousness should not be towards the support of the results. Report as it is, please. No worries, report as it is. If your hypothesis is not supported, that is also a result. So report as it is. Don't collect more data and get it supported. And you see, the change will not happen in a day. Education is a process. It might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, it might take 20 years, it might take 30 years, it might take 50 years. Okay, so it might take lives and lives and lives. So our job is not only just to fix ourselves with what has been happening since last 30 years, but our job is definitely to look into what we need to be and where are the improvements that we need to bring into. So the originality of results does not mean the support of hypothesis. And you need to keep a conscious touch on it, that if I propose 11 hypotheses and all of them are supported, then you should be worried. Then you should somehow be worried about it. So it's not like that. And I think students, even all those who are PhD students and MPhil students, and even who are submitting to our journals, it is not their fault per se. It is a system I'm talking about. I'm not talking about person A or person B. It is a system I'm talking about, and all of us are the systems. So let us see who bells the ring to the cat. Who does it? Who starts and initiates? So maybe in your universities, in your colleges, in your departments and institutes and centers, you can start advocating and start approaching people in this manner. So one thing is that we need to understand in results and discussion is what is something new that we did not know before. It could be rejection of hypothesis. Beautiful. I would love seeing that. And I'm not obsessed with it. Okay. So whenever if I'm examiner somewhere and if you know I'm the examiner or I'm let's say attending a conference, don't, don't please reject all your hypotheses. But my point I think is clear to you that it is not about acceptance or rejection. It is more or less about development of science. And in a qualitative study, see, one approach that we refer is ethnomethodology. This ethnomethodology is that common aam si baatein, common slangs, journal discussions becomes theories. See, if I'm, let's say, interviewing people who are beggars, asking them their experiences via phenomenological study, how was their phenomena, this phenomena of begging and their experience of life? How did they experience begging? So I'm just talking to a beggar, might not be a qualified person, okay? And with the dialogue and the discussion that I had with the beggar, I need to make it a science or somehow maybe deprived community, maybe sweeper, janitor staff, maybe third gender. If I'm interviewing them, talking to them, just a journal structured discussion will become science. So I need to know as a reviewer what is something new under discussion section that is there. Discussion is, I'm sorry, not description of the results. Discussion is something new. What is there in this research? So this is one criteria. Another is that how results are in line and different with previous knowledge. Now there comes another responsibility as an author. My job is not only to make the results in line or making the results out of the line, out of the box, out of thinking. Instead, I think my job is to present a certain logical flow of the argument. And as a reviewer, you need to see that do they really, the authors, are they really sketching an argument based on previous knowledge, especially in a quantitative study? Are they linking their results with the previous science or with the previous understanding? Then what is the rationale for similarities and differences? Now, theory can be a rationale, context can be a rationale, method can be a rationale. And these three things are very, very important. For example, I collected data from Pakistan and I said my results were different. Why? Because Pakistan as a country context is different when we compare it with, let's say, with Germany. Okay. Method could be yet another explanation. Likewise, theory could be yet another explanation. Because I am using social identity theory, previous scientists most of the times were using social exchange theory. That is why my results are different. So theory, methods, and context. Has the author elaborated on these points? This is again very important consideration in the discussion section. Then another point is that because in introduction we say that there are some academic debates which require our scholarly attention and our scholarly investigation. Now, after the study and after the results, what is the state of debate and what is the state of research? Are those debates about to close or you're opening up some new debates? So I would prefer that again, I would say there are levels of contribution. My discussion section should say that now there are new debates. The existing debates are now closer, but there are now new debates. Okay, now how Y will explain B and how W will explain Q. Now these are new debates. And also these could be the debates of context. For example, I collected data from drivers, truck drivers. No, I say, okay, next time I should collect data from the upper ends, from those who are the transport business owners. Okay, so this is why I would say that what are the debates in the literature, in the theory, in the methods, in the context, which are closer and which debates are open. And I need to be very conscious while writing the discussion. And very, very important point, what are the results doing to my theory? Your framework is an intervention into a theory. Again, I'm repeating the quantitative research-based framework, which I shown, like I elaborated brand jealousy. That was an intervention to social identity theory in a given framework. Now, what is that my results and how do they influence the interpretation of a particular theory? Is it like I'm adding new assumption or I'm subtracting some assumptions? So this is the state of knowledge, the discussion section. And I remember, I can recall my stats professor, Professor Ahmed Siddiqui in University of Management and Technology in Lahore used to say that if you wanted to see how beautifully an article is crafted and what is the state of knowledge in this article, read the discussion chapter. Read the discussion chapter, read the discussion part, and you just go and read the discussion part. Since last 2, 3, 4 years, there are no improvements, sorry to say, in most of the articles. We emphasize too much on literature review as authors, too much on introduction, too much on beautification of results, too much elaboration of methods, but lesser emphasis on discussion, and then more lesser emphasis on the limitations and future research directions. But I think we need to go back and rethink and revisit on these points as well. Then the final part of it. Now, do we know something new which we did not know before? That is a very important point. And when I say for example, the limitations, this is yet another very important consideration that I need to look into. And limitation, you can further bisect those limitations into methodological limitations, contextual limitations, theoretical limitations. Now I need to see that how eagerly every chapter is designed when it comes to an article or when it comes to a thesis. As I said, generally the authors, they emphasize too much on literature review, then they emphasize on introduction, also emphasize on results, and emphasize on the method section. Lesser emphasis on the lower part of the thesis or an article. But limitation and future research direction is also great help to the potential scholars and to the students, those who will read and those who might be able to grasp some articles, some more research ideas. So for limitations, do you know the limitations of your study? As I said, the authors should, it is not a scientific criteria though so far, but I think we will move toward it. When we say limitation of the study, we say methodological limitations, theoretical limitations, and contextual limitations. So I need to elaborate on it. And very important, every limitation should be linked to the future research direction. So has the author really done that? No, one mistake that I usually follow, I would call it a mistake, and I hope you don't mind, because sometimes what authors do, they conduct a qualitative study and they propose a quantitative study. Now this is philosophically is against the manner of science. If I am conducting a qualitative study, somehow I am into qualitative interpretivism. Now under interpretivism, if I conduct an interview, I can say next time I should use techniques other than interview. I can do content analysis, I can do document analysis, I can do some historiography, I can do some observation, I can do some ethnography, I can do some ethnography, I can do some narrative analysis, I can do some discourse analysis. So the limitation, instead of saying that this was qualitative and you do the quantitative, I can suggest from within the qualitative. This is yet another, if you read the journals such as Administrative Science Quarterly or Journal of Management or something like that, the top-notch European Journal of Marketing, Journal of Service Management, if you read and go through these journals tightly, you will see that the authors are approaching and recommending within a particular science. So jumping from one science to another science and asking it a limitation might kill the spirit of the science itself. And the readers, they wanted to know that if I'm into, say I'm reading a qualitative study, it means my research is also in the domain of qualitative. So I wanted to know more what I can do in the qualitative paradigm. And then, do you know what to accept and highlight or reject as a method of analysis? For example, I elaborated on the snowball sampling as an example. Now, do I really know the limitation of snowball sampling? Is it like I am not overly advocating the snowball sampling? And also, do I know the limitations of, let's say, quantitative research or limitations of qualitative research? Do I really know if I approach people and interview them as a technique and its limitations versus if I know the discourse analysis or using a semiotic analysis and its weaknesses? So whatever you propose, you do not advocate. This is a true spirit of science. Disinterestedness, this is something we teach in our research method classes, that no field is mine, no method is mine, it is not my property. For the development of science and keeping in view the objective of the study, whatever I need to do, I will do for the advancement of knowledge and science. So do I really know as an author, and you need to keep a critical check as a reviewer, is it something the authors know? Are they reporting it properly or they're jumping into it? It might not be completely wrong, But as a suggested area is that if you are into quantitative, you conducted a quantitative study, so better is that you report the weakness of quantitative approach and then suggest from within the science. Yes, I have already gave an example. No, I think the rejection nightmare, generally speaking, I have elaborated on all the reasons which I define here. And I think I would finish the presentation here. Thank you very much for listening. And now you are most welcome to ask any questions in case you have any questions. So over to Ms. Disha. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. There are so many questions coming in. Still, I request everybody, if there are any questions, please keep them coming. We do have somewhere around half an hour to 35 minutes to take as many questions as possible. Give me just 1 minute, sir. I will try and just get them. I was just organizing them. Right. The first question is how to register as a reviewer. Can you
I
hear
think
me?
Emerald has a, you see,
Yeah.
Emerald
Yeah.
has a straightforward process. Just go to the visit the website of the journal, and there are several options. You have to develop an account on the Manuscript Central, and they will ask you, are you like willing to review for a particular journal? You can click yes, and this is how you are registered. And one more thing, once you get registered, registration is a straightforward thing. Once you get registered, please drop an email showing your willingness to the editor, nicely writing to them that you work here and this is your experience of publication or teaching or research, and you are looking forward to review for this journal. I think showing a willingness to the editor is also important, not only registering for the as.
Hello.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Sorry, we lost you in the middle. I thought maybe we were not able to hear you. Okay, so now the next three questions is by the same person, but there's so many questions in one. I'm trying to see how I can concise this into. Okay, so someone has written to us that they're very new to the research field, to the reviewer field. They have published many papers in Q1, Q2 journals, and they're also reviewing, but they have questions on what happens during some processes. Thus, the first question is, how can we report and write our reviews? How to make quality report? And sometimes they say, when it goes through multiple reviewers, they say sometimes we receive a paper from an editor that has already been reviewed. Again, what do we need to do? Where do the authors incorporate their comments, or where do they need to comment for this?
There are, again, you see, as you said, there are multiple set of questions. So I think if you ask one by one, I'll be sharply answering those. So your first question was?
Okay.
First question was?
So the first question is, how can we report, and write our reviews? How to make a quality report?
Yeah, the criteria I already shared. And using the what I usually do is I use a Microsoft Word program, and you see, because I belong to an old method of reading the hard copy. So what I usually do, I print out the hard copy and I start reading it, and I read it several times, maybe one time, two time, three time, and to get a feel of it, that what has already been reported and written over there. And once I have some idea, maybe I'll start drafting a report in the Microsoft Word program. For example, heading to start with the title, I may have some comments as I just shared the criteria, and then comes the abstract, and then keywords, and then introduction. So I have shared a criteria that what do you feel as an author, and the criteria has already been elaborated in this presentation. So yeah, you can use this Microsoft Office Word program in order to draft your review.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, the second part of these questions are that sometimes we review papers from, let me just do one thing, I'll help you for this. Right. Now you can easily use your screen, sir. Now they're saying that sometimes we receive papers from editors which are already reviewed papers, and again we need to report. What do we need to report on? Where authors incorporate the comments or what?
I think there is a letter. Every author is supposed to draft a letter, which we usually call the reply to reviewers. And after every comment, either they can make a table at one side, the comments of the reviewers, and then how did they incorporate the change. Comment number two, the change. Comment number three, the change. So after, in a nice table, they are supposed to report on the extent of changes they made with reference to the comments made by the reviewers. This is one thing. Secondly, you see, reviewing is a very optional type of volunteer type of thing. So if they don't want to review, they can simply say that okay, they will review for one time. But we generally propose at Emerald, being an ambassador, I always promote this, that you need to review multiple times, because sometimes you can really help the authors. It is not evaluating or punishing authors. It is about helping them, motivating them, guiding them, encouraging them to write and make changes. Because with your motivation, you can change the life of, you can change the concept of somehow whosoever is thinking about research, and then later on they can help the students. And this is how somehow you are into a network, you never know, but you are helping a lot of people. So I think as an author, as a reviewer, what you need to do, just critically check the table. After every comment suggestion, they have their own intervention, that how did they made the change. So just quickly look at it and go through the article file also. This is how they can make effective decisions, a quick decision as well.
Thank you. Next part of the thing is second, we need to comment word to word on paper, or just to thoroughly suggest comments on all the sections like title, abstract, introduction, methods, etc. Even though language is sometimes a big issue, most of the time paper is not well written.
Yes, I think a word to word could be sometimes would be too much time consuming. So all those people who are just beginning and just new to this, it is strongly recommended that instead of word to word, that would be great help to the authors. From an author's perspective, word to word would be great help. They can just use the track changes function, or they can just use the comment under the review program into Microsoft Word file. They can do that, but it will be too much time consuming, one thing. Secondly, it is better that if you write a comprehensive review, some sort of a report, that we usually do for our PhD evaluation, for our MPhil evaluation, thesis evaluation. So review report can actually help all those people who wanted to bring about changes, because if there are a lot of comments, then it might confuse not only the authors, but also their supervisors sometimes, from a supervisor's perspective. So I think it is okay if I write a review report instead of going for word to word thing.
Wonderful. Now, the next question is, what about statistical findings? Are they important and must be considered during review, or see how he discussed the results?
Well, if it is a quantitative study, and if it requires your understanding, then I think it is very, very important. And one thing I missed, two things I missed, which I just popped up after this question. One thing is that I need to critically see how easily yet comprehensive the results are. Because my job is not to tell that average variance extracted AVE was this. I need to elaborate just a bit. What is AVE? What is Cronbach alpha? make it simple for readers. So as a reviewer, I need to see that is it easy to understand, unless until you are reviewing for top-notch journals, those who are advocating really the science, A star category journals, only those journals, okay? But generally speaking, make life easier. Don't make them complex and hard to understand. And this is one very reason that people do not bother as what is written under the result section. They skip and then they move to the discussion part. This is one thing. Secondly, if you ask me, as a reviewer, your job is to look after the references section, how nicely, how tightly the references are, the citations are made. Every journal, they have a system to follow. Either it is Harvard system of referencing or APA or whatever. So you need to see that do they really follow the system about the formatting of the article as well. Is it like the word count has been followed? The page guidelines, the paragraph guidelines, are they all followed? If yes, if yes, then it is okay. If they do not follow, please recommend them to follow. Make the life easier of the production team also. That once the article is accepted, they have not a lot of work to do. So it is already very good formatted and monitored. And I think somehow the editors is looking as an author. It is very important for us because the editors, they are looking into it.
Right. Because I think that's the extension of the question. They said that most of the time, in the papers, authors just write the items of construct performance expectancy. Is adopted from this and this source, ABC XYZ et al. In this way. So sometimes they write sources of items adoptions. Sometimes, they're written randomly, or they write in a convenient method. So is it good idea to discuss data collection methods?
I think yes. And a new practice is that we used to share the data. And now there is another practice that people, the editors, once the article is published, they publish the data file also. So this is one thing. Another thing is that in your article, you can report an appendix section. And you need to see as a reviewer that how ethically correct are the method section, because that is the problem part most of the times. We need to critically check on the methods and critically check on the data also. Somehow, Disha, the Emerald also know this data privacy, the COPE, Committee of Publication Ethics, and following their guidelines, and Chat GPT. And you see, everything is now evolving so rapidly that as a reviewer, my job is not only to just trust and believe on what has been written. Instead, behind the scene is also important, and data file, and also the ethics approval file, and also the author's agreements. All these are very important.
Thank you so much. Now, the next question is, what is adopted and adapted scale? Please explain. Is this regarding
I
to a
would
review or?
Yeah. I think I'll not elaborate much on it so that because I don't have a whiteboard which I can explain. Adopt is that a study was conducted in Switzerland and you did not make any changes, and you just ran the questionnaire, the same questionnaire in India. That is adopted. The scale is adopted. Adapt is that you make small changes, maybe the changes of context, the word expression. Somehow, if you made the changes, this is adapt. Without any changes, this is adopt. And this is a complete science and requires 3 more hours for discussion. But a bird's eye view is this is what adopt and adapt is.
Thank you. One second. I will just give you the next question. Uh, the next question is, what about references, citation? Are they important in review? How to review references? We are just checking the referencing style or formatting.
I would say these are very important. We are not only checking the referencing style and formatting, we are also checking how correctly the reference is cited. For example, I write in my article that a study was published by Kashif et al. 2018, and they said that okay, the food business is causing a lot of stomach problems among people. No, when I critically look into the citation, I saw, oh my God, this is not about food business. This is something written in this article, Kashif et al. 2018 is about cricket. This is not about food business. So I need to counter check that what has been cited, is it cited correctly or cited for the sake of citation? So formatting, the authenticity of the references also, and the style of the references also. These are the three important criteria when we talk about the references.
Thank you so much. The next question is, so they say that there was one paper and they found 14 hypotheses, and all 14 of them were accepted or supported. Now, is it very easy to discuss and write? Sometimes authors write hypothesis supported and result aligned with their studies. Is this a good way of discussing the results?
You see, this was a good way to write hypothesis results 30 years ago or 40 years ago. Today it is not. Today all you need to talk about is the theory first in a quantitative study, then comes your context and also your methods. So instead of, as I explained in my during the span of my presentation, it is not only about the description of the results that okay, H1 to H9 were all supported by the data and these were the results. That's all. No, this is not a discussion. This is just a description of the results. A good idea is to come up with the logic why results are the way they are. Now, this logic can stem from method, from theory, and from the context, as I elaborated during my presentation.
Wonderful. Now, the next session is so there are so many people not only commenting and saying thank you for such a wonderful session, and I'm just trying to decide remove those and then add where the questions are. Okay, so the next question is that, sir, I have got this comment from a reviewer. So the comment is, the article lacks depth, analysis is amateurish. Simple listing articles as per theory, methods, or founding is not knowledge production. Very poor research design, not suitable for international audience. Reviewer two comments is that the paper is poorly written, does not go in depth and in concept. The author should see how well written bibliometric studies are structured. The articulation and arguments need to be developed. How to ensure skillfulness in a paper?
Uh, a difficult one because it is about social behaviors. generally, generally, you see, I think one problem. I don't know if it is a global problem. I have not been to 100 countries yet, but an international problem is that when we teach something, we don't love people. We don't love students. We don't love learners. I may be wrong. I may be myopic, maybe short centric, but generally speaking, people tend to insult others. Oh, what is this written? Oh, this is very poor. Oh, this is very bad. No, I think this is not the way. Maybe we need to one expression that we use during good reviews is because we need to encourage and motivate people and love them because they are learners. You see, so if I have 20 years of experience, someone who is writing might be writing the first article. So instead of telling them this is poor, pathetic, this is bad, this is this, no, don't don't kick them. Just love them and tell them, oh, very good effort. This was also very good to read, but yes, it requires more depth. Maybe what you can do as my junior colleague, you need to include more depth. How this can be done? This can be done by correctly citing studies. This can be done by this. This can be done by this. This can be done by this. Page number this, paragraph number this. Or else you can say, okay, my dear friend, this was a good argument. I like it. But the next argument is not as strong as the previous one. So what you can do, maybe read the work of Disha et al. 2020, read the work of Devasiri 2021, read the work of Kashif 2023, and this is how you might be able to get some fresh thinking. and I hope it will help you. Looking forward to your work. So I guess this type of messages, this is a very important message to all the people who are examining work and also who are reviewing work. See, this is something seriously lacking. The etymology, the sociology, and the science of words. When we say poor, we don't motivate people. Poor is just a harsh expression. So yes, from a reviewer's perspective, it is important for us to tell authors that okay, made these changes, but tell them with a humble attitude and encourage them and motivate them, and don't blame them that they don't know. They are in the process to learn. If I have a 20 years of experience, they might be in the first. So yes, this is what we should do. This is just a suggestion. I think I don't know if it is an answer to a question, but I agree what the person who is asking a question, what he said or she said. I completely agree with it. That we don't use the unpopular expression. The popular expression is this is bad research. There is no like Miss Tisha. I received the review, and one of the reviewers said
Right.
there is no grace in your paper. So
No.
so when you just think there is no grace in your paper, I mean, sorry to say, it was not a bad act. It was just an act of science. So there is no
Right.
grace. So in my early career, I was taking these things this very different way, but with the
Very
passage of
seriously.
time, with the help of a mentor,
Yes.
maybe this is also very important to normalize the emotion of the authors and PhD and MPhil students. This is something important. But from a reviewer point of view, please don't use such harsh and sharp words. Don't be angry on people. Just love them and care them. This is the only thing I have to say here.
So I think we get so busy during the how do we say the day to day our lives also.
Yes.
Sometimes not only for reviewers we forget to become how do I say talk nicely to even people around us. So I can understand we are all really mixed between a lot of things. So
100%.
hopefully we can at least future review.
You're very right. I think it's an attitude. It is just like a cloth that we need to wear, just like a crown that we need to
Yes.
wear. We need to decide that my job in my rest of my life is to encourage people. If I have a mission, if I have a vision, I think someday I will be able to do it. I am as a person, Kashif as a person might not be doing it, but because I'm
Yeah.
saying it, no, this is something is in my mind. And if I'm a person, Kashif, who is listening to a talk, no, this is something which can be there in my mind. Oh, this is something I need to do. I should go back to my work, go back to my review things, my examination thing, and I don't need to be harsh on people. Don't make the life of people tough, make it easier. Science is not a punishment. The advancement of science is glory and a prestige for others to follow.
If I may add a little something to what you've already said, Dr. Kashif,
Is
the
is
fact is, in 20 years of being in the publishing industry, I've heard this, a lot of times from authors who say that the reviewers comments are very discouraging, and what you
yes,
rightly said is that many times reviewers approach the task as looking for criticizing, looking for
yes,
what are the faults rather than the attitude of helping, which is why I think for a big challenge for a lot of journals is finding the right kind of reviewers. We are not looking for people who will just give comments, but rather who are able to help the authors. That's where the reviewer's role becomes extremely important in helping build a paper. So it has to be a constructive criticism and, where possible, guidance on how to go about it.
mm, very right, very right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's comments on this. Now the next question that I have is that do old citations reduce the quality of review?
Obviously, no. Obviously, no. Even in my dissertation, because I use social identity theory, and it was developed in around late 70s. So I cited that work. The latest article which I published, if I'm using Hopeful theory, I have citations from 1980s, 1990s. So this is just a myth that old citation. But yes, other than theory, you should cite the latest work. Why? Because the reviewer wanted to know how current the author is about the development in a particular field.
Wonderful. The next question is that sometimes journals restrict the number of pages. In such situations, how to cover all aspects?
Just, uh, just, uh, just review your work. Don't submit the first copy of your article and even anything. Don't submit the first copy. Even if your dissertation, even if you are examining a dissertation, even if you're writing a dissertation, you're writing a manual, writing anything, just an industry report, a policy document, don't submit the first copy. Complete it, give yourself 1 day rest, then reread, edit, then reread, edit. So 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. The only mantra or the only strategy or a technique to reduce the word count is to read and edit. Use the track changes function, editing function from the Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office Word, and then keep on editing. This is all what I do, and this is the process I know. Other than that, you see, as because English is not our first language. So what usually happen when we say something, we say too much. The sentences could only be one liner. So the more you read critically, the better you are able to reduce the word count, and we have to respect the word count, which is another very important consideration. As I said in my presentation, that as the author considered the style, formatting, referencing, page number, page formatting, everything is part of the review. The only thing, the question was how to do it, how to reduce word count. Keep on reviewing it. Keep on review. Don't submit the first copy. Spend time. It also means that it is efficient time management. It is not that today is the submission date and I just finish by now and then I will submit and sleep. No, it is like I'll finish the work a week before, and it is efficient time management. And then I will review and review and review, and this is how I will improve on the document. That is the way forward.
Thank you so much. Now, the next question is that is it mandatory to use statistics in our reports?
Again, I would say if it is a quantitative research and if these are required, obviously you have to use it. For qualitative, obviously, because it is text mining, so we might not be using any statistical analysis, but could be some text analysis, some semiotics, some qualitative techniques. So it varies from science to science.
Right. Now, the next question is that is it mandatory to share theoretical and managerial implications in any paper?
Definitely, as I said, because by large, my area of study is into business and management and sociology. Now, for a sociologist, it is very important to share the social implications and also the theory, the theoretical advancement part. And for the business and management scientists, it is equally important. For psychologists, it is equally important. For transport science, food business, it is equally important. That what are the social as well as managerial implications alongside the theory. So yes, these are very important.
Now, someone is talking about they're thanking you for your presentation, and they say that in contribution to bringing something new to the table that has already been developed or that has already been researched on, what should we do to find a new contribution or stick with the old one or try to draw something new from it? Like, how do we go about something has already been researched? What do we go? How do we find something new on it?
There are many ways you can do it. One way is to just to switch on the science. If there are a lot of quantitative studies, you can just go and say that there should be a qualitative study. As part of my PhD, I'll give here an example. A lot of literature was written about brand globalness. That was my PhD about. And it started around 1988, and very popular American authors they write about it. Very top class journals like Sweepstake and all those very popular scientists in the field of marketing and branding, they were writing about it. And the work was published last in like in 20 good years. A lot of work was published, but the problem was that everything was published from a consumer's point of view. No one was talking about a distributor's point of view. No one was talking about a CEO point of view. No one was talking about an employee's point of view. So I took a different angle. I said, lot has been said. I agree and I respect the literature. This is the results. But all the research which has been published lacks some critical thinking, which is that every argument or hypothesis is based on the customer's perception of brand globalness. Rather, it should be, or it could have been, an employee's perception of brand globalness. So what I did, all the literature was already published, the quantitative studies were there. From that, I just marginalized it and I said that a qualitative study is needed. Sometimes people say that a qualitative study is needed only when something has not been said about. But it is just your thought and your mindset and your perspective. Sometimes a lot of quantitative studies, they are an opportunity for you to do the qualitative research. So this is one example. Another is context. That could be a reason that you can come up with a contribution theory, a new usage of a new theory to explain the similar relationship. That could be another contribution. Context could be yet another contribution. Method could be yet another contribution. For example, if I say that I adopted an instrument or a method which was used by biologists, and I am trying to study some problems of marketing or human resource management science or workplace psychology. So this is how we can bring in some contribution.
Thank you so much. Now, there is another question that says, Sir, can we use different Likert scales for measuring different constructs in PhD research?
I think, Ms. Nisha, now we are going really out of the context of this presentation. Somehow,
I will find something that is okay.
but I would
So, I
like to
mean,
just one liner, just sorry if you allow me, just one
sure,
liner to
sure.
this question is that idealistically speaking, idealistically speaking, there is no consensus on the Likert scale. It could be 5 and 7 both with some conditions. That is my argument.
Thank you so much. Now, there is one question. I think this person has asked, it almost seems you'll have to repeat your entire presentation, but as a PhD scholar and giving the first review paper for publishing, what should be the key things or suggestions I need to consider? Should we approach good journals or just start with normal journals?
I would like to answer this question first. You can approach normal journals. There is no theory about it. You can approach them. Those who are approachable, near to you, bird in hand approach. Maybe some editor, your friend, ask them you want a review. Help your peers at the workplace. If there is a journal of your university, go talk to the people and tell them about you. Introduce yourself and tell them that you wanted to help them. This is one thing. Now another thing, how to review. I gave the whole presentation. Maybe you can listen one more time once it is available via YouTube, or you can contact me. I can share the some notes with the person as how to review. What could be the guidelines?
Thank you. The next question, let's see if I'm understanding it correctly. They say, as we have to submit the work in other journals,
Hmm.
as we think we can get rejections, I have
Yeah.
put my references in APA style when the requirement of the journal is Harvard. I think I
Okay.
will change in revisions. Is that okay?
No, I don't think it's a good approach. I don't think so. A good approach is to follow the criteria given by the journal where I'm going to submit the article. So it is not that one article to be submitted everywhere. It is the after one rejection, I need to make changes idealistically based on the review reports, and then I submit to the next one.
As the regional publishing head, Sangeeta, can I invite you to take this question, because I think you really take care of this question even in your presentations when you do your art of getting published.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that? Disha,
Yes.
I lost
The
you for a
question,
second.
yeah, of course, no problem. So the question is that as we have to submit our work in other journals, and I think that we can get rejections, I have put my references in APA style when the requirement of the journal is Harvard. I think I will change it in revisions. Is that okay?
So whenever I think Dr. Kashyap has already responded to this question, the only element I would add to it is that when it comes to ethics in publication, it is a requirement that the article is submitted only to one journal at a time and not to
Yeah.
multiple journals. And unfortunately, a lot of authors do not follow this rule. So your author guidelines becomes the first indication if a the way the article is formatted becomes the first indication of whether the article has been submitted to other journals or multiple journals. So it becomes very important to stick to the guidelines of the journal that you're submitting in. So every time if you face a rejection, please reformat it to the guide according to the guidelines of the journal you're submitting next, so that the chances of rejection is reduced. Because very often what happens is when an editor looks at a journal or an article submission which has not followed the guidelines of their own journal, they'll reject it outright under the assumption that it has been submitted elsewhere as well. So it's very important to format it every time. I hope that answers.
Yes, thank you so much. I just have one more question left, and that is the last question for this session. Happy we may probably have like 2-3 more minutes if anybody has a question, but this is the last one that I have so far. But this is a question on publication and nothing related to the review section. They say, I have a question on publication. Is it mandatory that a research paper must get indexed in Scopus database, or just fine to get published only in Q1, Q2 Scopus or Elsevier journals?
So I think when it comes to publishing in index journals, it is a mandate from the institutes. It's the mandate from the research community, not a publisher's prerogative. Your Scopus indexing is only one of the indexes that indicates the quality of a journal, and there it's not the only one which determines that a journal is of good quality. So when it comes to validation of your publication in your institute, you need to check what are their mandates, what are their requirements, and what will they consider validity of your publication.
Thank you. I think the next question again goes to Sangeeta. But before that, Professor Kashyap, would you like to add something?
I think I would second what Ms. Singita already said, that it is the protocol of the university where someone is employed. This is one thing. And also, you see, there are some global standards. For example, if I just talk about the business schools, so they have some list to follow. For example, CABS, Chartered Association of Business School list. And also, we have Australian Business Deans Council list. So now in my business school, I usually advocate on these lines. This is one thing. Second, you see, all those deans or heads of departments or directors who are listening to this talk, I think we should give some opportunity to new authors. Because if someone is publishing for the first time, we should not establish such a harsh criteria that they cannot meet those guidelines. So just to start with, don't go for predatory journals. Just give them some margin for them to grow, maybe one article, maybe two articles, and then ask them that, okay, now move to the upper part of the scientific boundary. I think this is how we can somehow encourage people to publish. If we just tell them that, okay, you are in the field of marketing, go and publish in Journal of Consumer Research or European Journal of Marketing, sorry, this is not going to happen. This will not work this way. And at times I feel like that we are too much into the things, and we are too much into this thing that, okay, only the quality work should be there because it is our reputation. But the motivation of the staff and the establishing their ability to publish over a longer period of time, these are also some very important concerns.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next question to Sangeeta. Any suggestions on resources of research ethics for researchers?
I think one of your best places to check on those will be your Committee of Publication Ethics, COPE. They have quite a few sections that will, satisfactorily address those concerns. I think one of the best things about our digital age is, of course, a lot of resources are available, but I'll say stick to the well-known ones. Scope is what we as publishers always refer to. Other than that, we within Emerald also we do sessions on ethics in publications, and please stay tuned for any upcoming sessions on those.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in today. I hope everybody's taken back something from the session. If you have any more questions, please do write to us. We're always here. We'd love to know your comments, any feedback that you might have. And before we close, I'd just like to invite just one section. Just one session. I would like to invite Dr. Dimitu to please give the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Disha. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the distinguished guests and respected participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka, in collaboration with Emerald Publishing, for the successful completion of the third session of Faculty Development Program 2023. First and foremost, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the main speaker of the session, Dr. Mohammed Kasif, Associate Dean, GIFT Business School, GIFT University, Pakistan. Sir, it was truly an inspiring and enlightening session. At the outset, I would like to express my profound gratitude to the Faculty of Management Studies of the Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka, headed by Professor Athura Nyanapala. Further, I would like to express my special gratitude to Professor M.S. Maslam, Chairman, Research and Publication Unit, and all other members of the Research and Publication Unit of the Faculty of Management Studies for their unconditional support. I would also like to express our sense of obligations to Professor Jayanthan Devasri, Chairperson for the Faculty Development Program, whose visionary approach and dedication played a pivotal role in initiating this program. A special words of thanks goes to Ms. Sangeeta Menon, Chairperson for the Faculty Development Program, Emerald Publishing, and also Ms. Disha Laknapal, Chief Organizer of the Faculty Development Program, Emerald Publishing, for their collaboration in organizing this remarkable event. My deepest gratitude goes to the organizing committee, particularly Ms. Shanika Ratnasiri, Program Secretary, Faculty Development Program, and Ms. Kaushalani Roandika, Coordinating Secretary, Faculty Development Program, who meticulously planned and executed every aspect of this Faculty Development Program. Finally, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the audience, including all the academics, researchers, industry participants, and research students, and our exclusive media partner, Lake House Publishers, owned by the Associate Newspaper of Ceylon Limited, for their active participation. Hope you all join for the Faculty Development Program Session 4 on how to improve your research profile on Google Scholars, Hubble, Archid, Scopus, etc. by Professor Abhishek Bail. Thank you all once again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dimitu. Thank you so much, Professor Kashif.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope to see you all in the next session. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.